There comes a point in every person's life when the bridge behind them must burn, when the lifeboats must be sunk, when the only road forward is the one that forces you to win because losing is no longer an option. You've been told your whole life to play it safe, to keep your options open. But history was never written by those who kept a safety net under every step. It was carved by men and women who threw themselves so completely into their vision that retreat became impossible. Hernán Cortés, the Spanish conquistador, landed on the shores of Mexico with hundreds of men. They faced an enemy that outnumbered them many times over. His orders: burn the ships, no way home, no plan B, victory or death. You may not be standing on a battlefield with swords and shields, but in life you are always standing on a battlefield of decisions, and most people lose, not because they lack ability, but because they give themselves too many exits. A dream cannot survive in an environment of doubt and half-hearted commitment. When you have a backup plan, your mind will always run back to it at the first sign of discomfort. When you give yourself the possibility of retreat, you will always retreat. Every fortune ever built, every empire ever risen, every breakthrough ever achieved came from someone who decided, this is it, I will make it work, or I will be buried trying. Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb because he had a comfortable job to fall back on. He lived in his laboratory, failing over 1,000 times because there was no other plan. His life was the invention. His identity was fused with the mission. There was no separating the man from the vision. That is the power of thinking like there's no plan B. Your identity becomes your mission. You stop trying and start becoming. People misunderstand what commitment really means. Commitment is not saying I'll give it my best shot. Commitment is welding the doors shut behind you so that the only way out is through. Henry Ford was bankrupt multiple times before he revolutionized the automobile industry. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. Abraham Lincoln lost more elections than most people ever enter before becoming one of the greatest presidents in history. What did they all have in common? They didn't have a side road to walk down when the main road got rough. They had one road, the road. And here's the truth. When you remove the safety nets, you ignite a different version of yourself. You find reserves of creativity, courage, and energy you never knew existed, because the mind, when cornered, stops wasting time wondering what if, and starts building what must be. Right now, think of the thing you say you want most in life, the dream that wakes you up at night, the vision that follows you like a shadow. Now ask yourself, how many doors have you left open to escape it? How many times have you told yourself, if it doesn't work out, I'll just and filled in the blank with a softer, easier path? That blank is the graveyard of your potential. Every time you let yourself believe there's another way, you weaken your main way. Every time you say, if not this, then something else, you poison your own dream. This isn't about being reckless. This is about being all in. It's about reaching a point where you say, I am the kind of person who will see this through. No matter how many nights it breaks me, no matter how many times I fail, no matter how long it takes. Napoleon Hill wrote that the starting point of all achievement is definiteness of purpose. And definiteness of purpose cannot exist where there is a plan B. Purpose demands exclusivity. It demands that you choose it like you choose the air you breathe. The mind works in mysterious ways. It expands in proportion to the demands you place on it. When you have a plan B, the demand is low. The urgency is soft. The mind strolls. It doesn't sprint. But when your back is against the wall and the bridge is burned, your mind becomes a weapon. It starts seeing solutions that were invisible before. It starts creating opportunities where there seemed to be none. Look at the story of Sylvester Stallone. Before Rocky, he was broke, rejected by over 1,000 agents and producers, and even sold his dog for $50 just to eat. But he refused every offer that wanted to buy his script without him playing the lead role. He had no other option. It was either Rocky or nothing. And because of that unshakable stand, the film not only got made, it won 3 Oscars and launched his career. When you think like there's no plan B, you make the world bend. When you give yourself no escape, you become impossible to ignore. But here's the part nobody tells you. Thinking like there's no plan B is terrifying. It's not comfortable. It's not glamorous. It will rip you out of the false safety of mediocrity and put you face to face with the raw truth of what you're made of. And that's exactly why most people will never do it. They'd rather live a half-life, always wondering what could have been, than step into the storm without an umbrella. You have to be willing to stand in that storm. You have to be willing to look at the cliff edge and jump, not because you're sure there's a net, but because you've decided you're going to grow wings on the way down. This is what separates the few who achieve legendary success from the many who settle for average. The few see a challenge and say, "I will find a way." The many see the same challenge and say, "I'll try. But if it's too hard, I'll turn back." So here is the challenge for you. Identify the ships you need to burn. Identify the exits you need to close. Identify the backup plans that have been silently telling your mind it's okay to quit. Because until you do, you will never access the part of yourself that could change your entire life. Until you do, you will never know the electricity of waking up in the morning knowing there is no other way but forward. The human spirit is never more alive than when it is all in. When every cell in your body knows the mission is the only mission. When there's no time to second guess, no room to look back, no space to bargain with fear. That is when you become dangerous to failure. That is when you become unstoppable. Vision is the compass when there's no plan B. Without it, you're just running in the dark, mistaking motion for progress. But when you have a crystal clear picture of where you're going, every step, no matter how small, no matter how painful, pulls you closer to it. Walt Disney saw Disneyland long before the first shovel hit the dirt. Steve Jobs saw the iPhone before a single engineer wrote a line of code. Edison saw the light bulb glowing in his mind before the filament was ever invented. Vision always comes before victory. And the sharper your vision, the less you crave an escape. Because when you can see the end in your mind with such clarity that it feels real, you stop caring about the safety nets. You become addicted to the destination. But vision alone is not enough. The road to your dream is not straight. It is twisted, unpredictable, and often brutal. This is where adaptability becomes your shield. When there's no plan B, you can't afford to be fragile. You can't throw your hands up and say, "Well, that didn't work, I guess it's over." You have to bend without breaking. You have to turn setbacks into stepping stones, failures into feedback, obstacles into opportunities. The Wright brothers didn't get the first airplane off the ground by stubbornly clinging to a single blueprint. They adapted. They tested, failed, rebuilt, and tested again. They didn't abandon the mission. They adjusted the method. When you live without a plan B, your commitment is unshakable, but your strategy is flexible. That's the secret most people miss. They think no plan B means never change your approach. No, it means never change your destination. Resilience is the muscle that keeps you walking when your legs are bleeding. It's what gets you out of bed on mornings when your chest feels heavy and your mind whispers, "Quit." Abraham Lincoln buried children, faced public humiliation, suffered crushing political losses, and still pressed forward. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison without knowing if he would ever walk free, and yet he kept his vision alive. When there's no plan B, resilience becomes more than a trait. It becomes survival. It's not something you hope to have. It's something you forge every day in the fire of discipline. And that's the next piece, discipline. Without discipline, no plan B is just reckless hope. With discipline, it becomes inevitable destiny. Discipline means showing up when you're tired. It means saying no to temptations that steal your time and energy. It means setting your life up in a way that serves your mission and cutting out everything that doesn't. You think Carnegie built his empire by doing what he felt like every day. You think Edison stopped working on the light bulb because it was raining or because he didn't feel motivated. Discipline is doing the work whether or not your feelings approve. When you have no plan B, you don't wait for motivation. You operate on commitment. Gratitude, too, becomes a hidden weapon. When the road is long and brutal, gratitude keeps you from drowning in frustration. Gratitude turns the smallest victories into fuel. It shifts your focus from what's missing to what's possible. Every time you're tempted to say, "It's not working," force yourself to remember the progress you've made, the lessons you've learned, the strength you've built just by staying in the fight. Gratitude and hunger can live in the same heart. Be grateful for where you are, and hungry for where you're going. Now, I'll be honest, the deeper you go into no plan B living, the lonelier it can get. You'll lose people. Not because they hate you, but because they can't understand you. They can't relate to someone who's willing to throw away every safety net for a vision that doesn't yet exist in the physical world. But that's the price of greatness. You're not here to be understood by the many. You're here to inspire the few, and to prove to yourself that you were right to believe when others doubted. And in time, those same doubters will come back, not to apologize, but to ask you how you did it. And you will smile, not out of arrogance, but because you know the answer is simple. I gave myself no way out. Every breakthrough in human history is a monument to no plan B thinking. It's the painter who refuses to put down the brush, the writer who bleeds onto the page until the story is told, the inventor who fails 10,000 times but keeps showing up. And if you think this kind of commitment is for special people, you're wrong. It's for anyone who decides they're done with excuses, anyone who decides the dream matters more than the discomfort, anyone who decides to stop asking, what if it doesn't work, and start asking, what if it does? When you live this way, you find out something incredible. You've been carrying Plan A inside you all along. It's not out there. It's in here. It's in your mouth, your hands, your habs, your faith. And once you realize that, you stop needing guarantees from the world. You become your own guarantee. You become your own safety net. You become your own answer to the question, what will happen if I fail? Because the truth is, you won't. Not because you'll never stumble, but because you'll never stop. And the person who never stops never truly loses. There will come a day, and it might be sooner than you think, when you will stand face to face with the moment that defines you. It won't be a day of applause or cameras or trophies. It will be a quiet day. It might even be an ordinary Tuesday. But on that day, life will put a question in front of you. Do you really mean it? It will happen when the bank account is empty, when the phone stops ringing, when the people who said they'd support you have disappeared into the background, when your mind whispers, this is too much, just walk away. That's the day you either run to your Plan B, or you burn it down for good. Understand this, it is not talent alone that changes the world. It is not luck, or timing, or some secret formula the rich are hiding from you. It is the ability to stand in that moment, stare it in the eyes and say, I will not quit. I will die on this hill before I surrender it. History remembers these people not because they were fearless, but because they refused to let fear dictate their future. Fear is natural. Fear is human. But for the few who rise, fear becomes a sharpening blade, not a cage. Think of Alexander Graham Bell. If his telephone had failed in those first tests, he had no second invention waiting on the shelf. He staked his life on one vision, one creation, and he built the communication revolution. Think of Harriet Tubman. Every trip back into slave territory to lead people to freedom had one outcome, succeed or be captured. There was no third path, and because of that absolute commitment, she became one of the greatest freedom fighters in history. Think of Elon Musk, standing on the brink of bankruptcy, having poured every cent he had into Tesla and SpaceX. Both companies could have died in the same week, and yet there was no retreat, no maybe I'll just invest in something safer. That all-in commitment forced breakthroughs that reshaped entire industries. When you live like this, the world shifts around you. You stop competing. You start creating. You stop chasing opportunities. They start chasing you, because nothing is more magnetic than someone who is unshakably committed to a single vision. That's the paradox. When you give yourself no escape, life starts opening doors you never imagined. When you lock in, the impossible begins to bend in your direction. But make no mistake, the road will still be brutal, the storms will still come, and there will be days when it feels like the dream is slipping through your fingers. Those are the days you have to remember why you burned the ships in the first place. Those are the days you remind yourself that this is not just about money or success. This is about who you become when you have no other choice but to grow. Because the truth is, the real treasure of living with no plan B is not the goal itself. It's the transformation you undergo in the pursuit. You will learn things about yourself you never would have discovered in comfort. You will develop strengths you never knew existed. You will become someone you would not recognize if you met yourself a year ago. And one day, You will look back on the person you were before you made this decision, and you will realize that person was never going to make it. Not because they lacked talent, not because they lacked intelligence, but because they were still holding on to a way out. You are not that person anymore. From here on, you stand among the few who understand the most powerful truth in achievement. The decision to succeed must be made before success arrives. When you decide, truly decide, that there is no other way, the rest becomes a matter of time. You will find the resources, you will find the people, you will find the answers, because you have no choice but to find them. That is what it means to live without a plan B. And if you're wondering where to start, cheer. Pick the thing that matters most, the dream that lives in your chest, like a burning coal, the vision that has followed you for years, whispering to you in quiet moments. Pick it, name it, commit to it, then start removing the exits. Cancel the backup plan. Stop telling people, if it doesn't work out, I'll just erase the job. Tell yourself, this is the way, the only way. And when the doubts come, and they will speak to them like the captain of a storm-tossed ship, this vessel is not turning back. We may take on water, we may lose sails, we may be battered by the waves, but we will reach that shore or sink in the attempt. There is no return. That is the kind of conviction the world bends to. That is the kind of commitment that pulls success out of hiding. When you walk this path long enough, something almost mystical happens. Your dream starts fighting for you. It begins to pull you forward, even when you are tired. It begins to attract the people and circumstances you need at exactly the right moment, not because the universe suddenly decided to be kind, but because you have finally aligned every fiber of your being in one direction. And the world does not ignore someone who moves with that much force. So, I leave you with this. Stop holding the door open for your fears. Stop giving your doubts a spare key to your life. Close the exits. Burn the ships. Sink the lifeboats. Decide once and for all that this is it. That you are not just trying. You are becoming. And becoming is not something you do halfway. When you think like there's no plan B, you stop being a player in the game. You become the game, and the game bends to the one who refuses to leave the field. Now go, live like there's no other way, because there isn't. If you're still listening to my voice right now, it means a part of you is ready to step over that invisible line, the one that separates the drifters from the doers, the curious from the committed. This is not the line you can step back from. It's a one-way crossing. Once you take that step, the person you were before is gone. Gone with their excuses. Gone with their hesitation. Gone with their comfortable, quiet surrender to an average life. And maybe that's exactly what you need, to leave that old self behind. You see, the people who rise to the top are not always the smartest or the most gifted. They are the ones who have destroyed their escape routes so completely that all they have left is forward motion. That is their survival. That is their fuel. When the world says be careful, they say be committed. When the world says have a backup plan, they say I'll have a backup when I'm dead. Because when you know there's no turning back, every fiber of you is forced to grow in the direction of your dream. It's survival instinct, weaponized. And here's something most people don't realize. The moment you make the decision to live without a plan B, the weight of indecision disappears. That constant back and forth. Should I try harder? Should I quit? Should I wait? Vanishes, because you've already decided. Indecision drains more dreams than failure ever will. And when you remove it from your life, you free up an ocean of mental energy you didn't even know you were wasting. That's why the all-in people move fast. That's why they seem unstoppable. They're not better than you. They're just not splitting their focus between the dream and the escape. If you want proof, look to history again. Edison didn't spend his nights researching alternative careers in case the light bulb doesn't work out. Henry Ford wasn't filling out applications for other factories while perfecting the assembly line. Oprah Winfrey didn't have a backup dream for when her broadcasting career was struggling. In its early days, every ounce of their thought, energy, and time went into the one path they chose. And that's why, when they hit obstacles that would have ended most people, they adapted instead of retreating. This mindset does something powerful. It rewires the way you see failure. When you have a plan B, Failure means time to quit and try something new. When you have no plan B, failure simply means that way didn't work. Find another. You stop taking it personally. You stop letting it define you. You treat it as a teacher, not a tombstone. And when failure becomes a teacher, you stop fearing it. When you stop fearing it, you stop avoiding it. When you stop avoiding it, you start taking the bold, decisive actions that lead to breakthroughs. But understand this. Thinking like there's no plan B will demand more of you than anything you've ever done. It will demand your time, your focus, your energy, your pride.
Oh, great.
And sometimes your sanity. It will test your endurance. It will strip away your illusions. And in doing so, it will build you into someone unrecognizable. Someone capable of more than you ever imagined. It is not the easier life. It is the greater life. You will lose some comforts, but you will gain a sense of aliveness most people will never feel. You will trade short-term ease for long-term freedom. You will trade guaranteed mediocrity for the possibility of greatness. And that possibility, that chance to live the life you've dreamed of, is worth everything you have. Because the truth is, you only get one life. And if you spend it keeping one foot in your dream and one foot in your escape route, you will never know the feeling of giving it everything you've got. So let me speak directly to you, the one hearing these words. Burn the ships, sink the lifeboats, shut the back door, and throw away the key. Stop asking how you can make it easier, and start asking how you can make it happen. Stop preparing for the possibility of failure, and start preparing for the reality of victory. Every day you hesitate is another day you're telling your dream it can wait. It can't. The clock is ticking, and no one is coming to give you more time. Make the choice now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when things feel right. Right now. Choose to think like there's no plan B. Choose to live in a way that leaves you no escape but forward. Choose to become the person who doesn't need guarantees because they've already guaranteed their own effort. And when you do, you'll notice something. Life stops feeling like it's happening to you. It starts feeling like it's happening for you. Because now, you are the one steering the ship. And there's only one destination on your map. And one day, sooner than you think, you will wake up and realize that the life you're living now was once the dream you refused to quit on. You'll create the results of every sleepless night, every rejection, every step forward, when it would have been easier to stop. And in that moment, you'll understand that you never needed a plan B. You only ever needed one thing, the courage to commit.